Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about surrender. I wanted to talk about my experience with what surrender felt like in the beginning, what surrender feels like in stroke recovery and vestibular recovery, and the difference between like what surrender used to mean to me and what it means now. Like surrender as I was growing up was always that like white flag misconception of defeat. That's what the cartoons have, where Tom and Jerry, like Jerry's like this really smart mouse, and as tiny as he is, he's very mighty, and he ends up um pushing Tom the cat to the point of surrender. And they show that in the cartoon with him like has circles around his head with little birds tweeting and swirling around his head, and he's waving a white flag like he has been completely defeated. What they don't show is surrender ever. They don't show surrender as a pathway to anything. It's really just like the end. Surrender is the end. And I've learned in sobriety how surrender is actually the beginning. And it is a pathway to serenity and happiness and starting to build a relationship with my understanding of a higher power. So it's really the start of something new. And as I've applied that to my stroke recovery, it has been the same. I have been communicating to you over the past years that I've been doing this podcast, that I reached that same point where in stroke recovery, where I was pushing myself to the point where life was unmanageable. I had so much pain physically that I had to surrender. And as that applies to sobriety, I had reached the point where I had so much emotional pain and later discovered spiritual emptiness that my life was unmanageable. So, step one for sobriety is that concept of surrender. Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, I was thinking this morning, like, what am I actually surrendering to? And what am I handing over? Because that makes all the difference to me in my mind of whether I feel like I've been defeated or I feel like I'm on the brink of something new. That I'm actually going to make a decision to make my life better, to create a better version of myself. So surrendering for me is putting my hands up in the air, is letting go. It's and even the term letting go was so complicated to me when I first got sober. I didn't understand what it meant. I didn't understand how to do it, how to make letting go an action. Because letting go for me, same as surrender, it's just a different word, but the concept is the same for me is like not worrying about it anymore. Like letting go. Before I practiced using the God box in early sobriety, letting go for me was just like a mental concept where like, okay, you just have to turn it off. You just have to turn off your worrier. And that just didn't work for me. I didn't know how to just stop worrying, especially as somebody with depression and anxiety. It is, I feel like, and what I've learned about myself, it's physically impossible because of my chemical imbalance to just turn it off, to just let go, to just surrender. Um, so I needed to learn how to how to make that an action. Um, and the way that I had to do it, and it's kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, well, not really. I mean, step one, I'm learning that my life is unmanageable. I'm making a decision. My life is unmanageable. And steps two and three introduce me to the concept of how do I surrender? Who am I surrendering to? And what am I surrendering comes later in step four, and so on. So I needed to reach that point where I just couldn't. I knew I can't do it anymore, right? The words I can't do it. And I heard somebody say that this morning, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like surrender is, I can't. Um, but there's a lot of depth to surrendering, and it's what can't I do, and what do I need in order to do it? Um, I need somebody or something else. So I can't do it on my own. Living, living would be it. I can't do it on my own. Um, Even in stroke recovery and vestibular recovery, I reached the point where I can't live on my own. I can't figure out life on my own. I can't. And then I quickly dive right into the next step, which is developing a relationship with who can help me. And early in sobriety, there's a lot of people who don't have a relationship with a higher power. And I had this desire to have a relationship with a higher power, but I didn't know what that higher power was, how to build a relationship with it, or anything like that. But the desire was there. And that desire for me was really helpful in rather quickly having an understanding of what I'm handing it over to, who I am surrendering to. And even without a real solid understanding of a higher power, um, having a support program, a sobriety program, a stroke recovery program or fellowship, a vestibular fellowship, um, that can be used as I'm surrendering to you. I'm I'm gonna let you in. That's what surrendering is for me. It's I'm putting my hands up in the air, and you can almost visualize that me putting my hands up in the air is actually opening my arms up to allowing somebody to come in. And whether that somebody is my family, my friends, my fellowship, a support group, or my higher power and or God. That's what surrendering is for me. It's letting go physically, like loosening my grasp and letting go. And when I do that, my arms are open and that allows space to sorry, I just hit the mic, to let my higher power in. And I've explained that my higher power is everything outside of myself. And that's what I've learned that I'm surrendering to. I can't live on my own. I'm surrendering my life over to something bigger than myself. That's what surrender is. Um, Recognizing that surrender is really a decision to go from living quietly independent to being receptive to others and maybe some divine guidance if you believe in that, you know. And then starting to a lot of that is is making a decision. Excuse me. Sorry, it's still happening. My congestion. um, don't worry, I'm okay though. So it's being open to like divine guidance, and then those are these decisions, and then that's where the action starts. Is that I'm making a decision to take actions in order to let people in. And some of those ways that I do that are going to support meetings, weather, stroke, vestibular, sobriety. I'm starting to implement routines, building habits that symbolize that decision, that release of my burdens and things that I learn along the way as I start letting others in and my higher power in. I learn different tools like visualizations to more quickly be able to surrender or let go of things on a daily basis, which I have to do constantly. I'm constantly handing stuff over. I'm constantly letting go because my anxiety issue just tries so hard to hold on to things. And I've learned in my program um, that I can visualize things like before in the beginning, I would get my God box out and I would write somebody's name, whatever I'm all hung up on, I would write it on a little sticky note and stick it inside my God box and slam it shut. And I will always remember the sound of that box slamming shut. That means I've handed it over. It's over. Like I needed that sound to kind of signify that it is trapped. That thing that I'm holding on to is now out of me and trapped inside that box. And I needed that to be able to visualize what letting go is as an action instead of that you just have to turn it off. You just have to stop thinking about it. Like that didn't work for me. I had to visualize it getting out of my head and into that box and shut the box. Another visualization that I heard in one of my meetings, and the person said it so matter of factly, and it has like stuck in my craw ever since then, that when I'm going to bed and I've got stuff I'm worried about, that I can just put that stuff on my nightstand and it'll be there in the morning. I don't have to take it to bed with me. And I said in my meeting this morning, I'm like, I like to leave my pillow fluffy and clean. I don't like to bring that crap into bed with me. And and it reminds me of when my kids were younger, when they would have a bad dream, I would tell them, like, if they had a bad dream, they would come into my room, wake me up, and we'd stay very quiet, no talking. And we would go back to the bedroom and we would flip their pillow over to the good dream side. And it's kind of like that. Like it's a visualization and acknowledging that I have a worry and I'm going to do something about it, but I'm going to do something about it tomorrow. And when I first heard that visualization of putting my worries on my nightstand and they'll be there in the morning, my first reaction was like, well, I really have to take care of that. What if I forget what it is? Which is silly. If I forget what it is, then that is probably best. Then that means it wasn't as important as the nighttime made it be for me. The nighttime seems to condense my worries, it really does. So, so this misconception of surrender, surrender is not a weakness or a failure. It's not where I'm face first in the mud with birds flying around my head and I'm waving the white flag. It really is acknowledging my human limitations as a single person. We were meant to live with each other and share our experience, strength, and hope with each other so that we don't all have to do the same thing, learn the same lesson over and over again. Like, how far would we be if we couldn't rely on those who lived before us, right? That's the only way technology has come to be where it is because we build on what has already been created. And the same goes when I look at my emotional sobriety and my spirituality. I don't have to start from scratch. Um, if there's something I can't do, whether it's physically, emotionally, or spiritually, I haven't failed. It means that I get to lean on somebody else's experience, strength, and hope in order to start where they left off. I mean, it's actually a beautiful thing being able to surrender to something greater than yourself is actually um, quite a brilliant way to live. So surrendering, I think, is often misunderstood as giving up rather than this courageous act of faith in one another. Um, so, using some of these techniques for visualizing, like turning the pillow over or putting these worries on my nightstand, those are ways I think to empower yourself. I say this a lot too, like when what is courage? Courage is not being scared. Courage is doing something even though you're scared. And that's really, I think, what this process is. We're understanding that strength is not in not being scared, not having fear. Um, Strength is not being able to do things without somebody else's help. Strength is really the ability to navigate when we need help and trusting in somebody else, whether it's a person or your higher power. So, um, but it's ongoing. That surrender has to happen every day. it's a daily commitment and needs to be practiced every day. But when I do, when I actually like when I'm going to bed, I always it took me like 4 years of sobriety before I started doing this, but I actually kneel beside my bed before I go to bed and I thank God for my sobriety, for not smoking, for the willingness to recover. I've most recently added, thank God for my body, because although I have now a damaged brain, I have so much more going for it. Like I can do so much still. And thanking God for my body has allowed me to get a little more enthusiastic about exercising because I can. You know what? Side note, sorry. Um, I found a vestibular support group for people who want to get back to running. So guess who's gonna try that? This girl. Okay, so all of this, I hate when I lose track. Yeah. Viewing surrender. So we're gonna view surrender as not giving up or failure. It's really freedom. It's really a liberating step towards spiritual growth and inner peace. And oh, that's where I was saying so the last thing I say before I go to bed after thank God for my body, I say thy will be done, not mine. And that provides me with inner peace. It does. That is my action of putting all my worries on my nightstand. It's also my action for like loosening my grasp, letting go and opening my arms and allowing my higher power in or um not control trying to control anything, and I have to do it every day. So I encourage you to have a personal contemplation on this area in your life. Like, where does surrender apply to you? Do you surrender in places that you need to surrender, or are you holding on? Like, can you try to pick up some of these visualizations to help practice letting go on a daily basis? And it's like little things when you're interacting with somebody at work that just rubs you the wrong way. See if you can visualize something other than punching them in the face. Visualize putting it in your God box and having that God box like slam shut and see what that does for you. So, thanks for listening today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.